Evening, everyone, and welcome to another mentorship session with Women in Mining South Africa and 𝗪𝗠𝗎 Coaching and Consulting. We are very happy to have everybody online tonight. And just like every other session that we've had, it's an evening to be inspired, to be motivated, and for us to learn from each other, as well as our very incredible panelists who we'll learn more about shortly. Today's topic is around self-leadership and having a CEO mindset. And I think just from my own learnings of this in previous mentorship programs, it's something that we probably forget about a little bit because we're so focused on leadership above us or leadership below us and how we need to navigate ourselves in those spaces that we actually forget about we need to lead ourselves as well. So we've got a really exciting conversation lined up. Please participate, ask questions, share your thoughts. And I'm going to hand you over to Patu, who is leading tonight's session. So Patu, take it away.
Thank you so much, Raksha. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. This is my favorite topic. Those who have been in our previous sessions definitely know how excited I've been this whole month. Self-leadership is something that speaks to who I am today. And it took me a journey for me to discover some of the things, some of the most important aspects about leading yourself to being who you want to be. And I think I shared about how self-discovery was the most hardest step for me because it made me to reflect on the type of person that I am and actually confront some of the things that I'm already doing to actually tackle them and actually explore and actually grow from them to being who I wanted to be. So tonight we're going to have an exciting time. I hope that everyone will be participating because I think self-leadership has to do more about ourselves and some of the things that we struggle with internally alone. So this is a safe space wherein we can share all of those things and actually grow. And we have a beautiful panel. And before I go to a panel, I have my co-host, Briani, who will be helping each other tonight. Briani, do you just want to say something? Just a few seconds.
Sure, absolutely. So we've been exploring self-leadership and CEO mindset over the last month with our 𝗪𝗠𝗎 mentoring group. And I think some of the key things that we've done is talk around self-awareness, how we have to get conscious. We spend so much of our lives being habituated and in an automated mode, and sometimes we do things without even knowing. We react to situations without even being conscious of what we're reacting to. And we have these stories in our head that often drive our actions and sometimes limit us. So we've unpacked a lot of that, and I'm hoping we're going to unpack some more of that, because I think when you move into leadership positions, you have to be a really good self-leader for yourself. You have to really know yourself, have strong self-awareness, because when you know yourself, it becomes easier to know others, and leaders need to know others. And then the second thing we've been exploring this month is that voice inside your head that says, oh, Briani, you've been talking for too long already. Maybe you should keep quiet. Maybe everybody's going to think you're talking too much, or you're not talking anything kind of valuable. And suddenly you kind of go, oh, I better not talk anymore. I'm starting to feel really aware of myself. And that's your inner critic voice. And that's your inner child voice that gets formed when you're a child, when you're learning how to keep yourself safe, when you develop coping mechanisms that keep you safe from being shouted at when you're a little kid. And how that inner critic voice comes along with us into adulthood, into our work life, into our normal life, into our relationships. And it shows up in the way that we behave and the way that we react to things unconsciously. And in the process of talking about our inner critic voice, we've tried to separate that voice from our own voice, to recognize that we don't need that voice to run our lives. And that the moment we can notice it, we can start thanking it for keeping us safe, and we can choose more appropriate coping mechanisms to deal with the complex challenges that we face as adults. And so I think that's a nice place to kick off, because You can't be a leader, and you certainly can't self-lead when you operate unconsciously on a daily basis. And so I want to hand back to Patu, but I'm hoping that Tebogo and Confidence at some point are going to talk to us about how they got conscious about their stories and about their inner critic voices, and how they've put those to bed and allowed themselves, the adult version of themselves, to step forward and take responsibility for how they respond to life's challenges.
Thank you so much, Briani. And without wasting any time, we'll get straight to it. I'll start by just introducing our panelists for tonight. We have Dr. Tebogo, who is an HOD of chemical engineering at the University of Johannesburg. And then on the other side, we have Confidence, who is a professional geotechnical engineer. So for me, I had the privilege to choose my panelists, and I chose these amazing ladies who I think are doing so amazing in the different spaces that they are in. And I think one thing that I love about them is that, like for an example, Dr. Tebogo, as an HOD, you know, so young and a female, I remember still attending varsity. This is not the kind of face I would look for when I'm looking for an HOD, you know? And I think it's just so amazing to just see how a lot of things that she has achieved, and I'm sure it was not so easy, but when you look at it, someone looks at it like, I want to be like her. And you know, sometimes we have to realize that there's a journey that someone has to go through to actually discover that they are even capable of being the type of person that she is already today. So I think it's just going to be amazing to navigate and understand her journey also. And looking at Confidence, you know, being in a field where it's geotech, and most guys aspire to thrive in it, and seeing a female thriving and taking up space in a way that she's noticed across the world. For instance, it's just so amazing. So I hope that everyone will be able to give in questions, to just ask if there's something that they're saying that you think you're still struggling with and you still want to understand better. Use the comment section to just give in your questions, and then maybe at the end also we'll open up for questions so that we can actually interact together. So without wasting any time, I'd like for our guest to just introduce themselves, but in a nice, fun way, in relation to the topic this month. Just tell us about yourself in terms of your values, what makes you who you are, and what do you believe is self-leadership, and what does self-leadership mean to you guys? So I don't know who would like to start. Should we start with Dr. Tebogo?
Yes, you can start with me. Good evening, everyone. It is really an honor to be here, and I really hope that when we share our journey of becoming, even if one person is inspired by that, I think we will have really achieved in this session. My journey of becoming and really self-leadership, what is that for me? I love that self-awareness has already been spoken about. That is really the first thing, self-awareness and being aware of who you are, recognizing your strength, your weaknesses, and also understanding that, and obviously looking into your goals as an individual, that what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to achieve? And if you understand if I understand my weaknesses, I understand my goals, I also understand that what is it that is going to take me to move to the next step? What is it that I need to get to move to the next step? I think that is really the most important thing, because otherwise we'll really just be cruising in life without, you know, when you say that I know that I want to move from a point A to point B, but unless you know what is it that you need to go to point B, I think really you might be stuck in one place for a very long time. And really some of the values that I carry with me on a daily basis, the first one will really be humility. You know, humility for me is, I think, is up there. And being compassionate really also being aligned to empathy. And it goes with whether you are a leader, you are leading people, or you are leading yourself. You need to be someone that is compassionate. You need to be someone that is empathetic towards the people that you are working with. The other one, integrity. I mean, it begins with you. It begins with you as an individual. While you lead yourself, before you even lead other people, you need to have integrity. Can the person, if it's your line manager, can you be trusted? Are you honest? You know, can you show up in different places? And if you're within an organization, the people that are up there, they look at you and they're actually proud because you can be trusted. You are honest with everything that you're doing. You have to be dependable. Very important. Can my line manager really depend on me? Can they trust me with the task that they need to be done? Courageous. Look, with that one, really, I think self-leadership, it also speaks about you being able to tread in spaces, uncommon spaces. Because when you understand yourself, you understand the goals, have the courage to tread in those spaces. Spaces that we have, sometimes spaces that we have not even seen anyone trading in those spaces. But because the vision is clear for you, you know that, okay, this is where I want to go. You actually have the courage to do that. And I'll really end that list with serving. You need to have this thing of serving, to say that, you know what, and understanding that wherever you are, wherever you have been planted, whether you are required to sweep the floor, you need to understand that you are there, you are serving, and serve with excellence and diligence. I think really that is the most important one, that sometimes we think that for us to begin to serve with excellence and diligence, it depends on the different roles, different positions that we need to be, sorry about that, to actually be involved in. But really it begins with being trusted with a little. Can I really trust you with, if you need to make coffee, can you be trusted with that? Can you do that with excellence and diligence? Let me end there and give it over to Confidence.
Oh, wow. Just said a mouthful. And I think, I don't even know where to start, but I think if I remember very well, Pathu, you were asking us to rather introduce ourselves and just reflect on our values with respect to leadership, right? So I think my strongest value, or rather I'd start off to what really drives me. What is that one thing that gets me up very early in the morning? And for me, it's from a very young age, I had to ask myself, why did God create me? Why was I born today? Why do I even exist? And I realized that there is a purpose. And that purpose is what Dr. Tebogo started off, I did mention, the purpose to serve, to be the light and to serve. And I needed to ask myself a question, where do I serve and how do I serve? And that's when I discovered that in order for me to exist in the world that we're in today, I need to find the areas where I need to serve and serve faithfully and serve wholeheartedly. And that started off simple things as when you're growing up at home, when they ask you to clean, when they ask you to cook, when they ask you to do one small task, how do you show up fully and serve faithfully? You know, I remember people would ask me a question, oh, you became an engineer, you became this, why are you serving on a certain board? And I'm like, serving on a board started off by serving as a very young person when you were asked and sent to do something. And that is where I want to start off with my values, to say the desire to serve faithfully in any given task, in any given environment. It's what I hold very dearly in my heart, to say, whenever you're given an opportunity, whenever there is a need for you to step up and serve, how are you showing up? So for me, that is the key, or rather to say the foundation of what leadership is, according to me. And what is that then that drove me to where I am today, or rather to, let's say, pursue an engineering journey? I look around us and say, okay, there is a desire to see change in the world that we're in. We complaining about roads, we complaining about housing. You know, in school, our teachers will tell us to say, We need people that will develop the world. We want to see change in the world. And I think to myself, so who's building the roads? Who's building the houses? And that's when I saw, oh, it looks like it has something to do with civil engineering, you know? And I'm like, okay, so if I want to serve and make that change that I want to see, let me go back and start seeing where are those needs to educate myself, to equip myself, so that I can also play a role in that. And that in itself became the foundation of what I needed to do in order to make sure that I'm fully equipped, or rather I am enabled, or rather empowered to give meaningful impact, or to give meaningful contribution to whatsoever work that I'm given. Whether you're asking me to just come and assist in a school with helping someone or a tutoring, or whether I'm assisting in a big work environment in designing foundations of a multi-story building, or whether it is, I don't know, wherever I'm at, what I've learned in that journey was that nobody is born knowing everything. And it is very important for me to equip myself in order to show up and serve in the purpose that I've rather been created to do. So I'd rather leave it there for now with the key items, or rather with the key value being born to serve in order to make an impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. You know, just you guys sharing your values, you know, it goes to show that it's in the little things or the decisions that we take on a daily basis, you know, that leads us to being who we want to be, you know, seeing opportunity in the serving part, taking courage when you're given opportunities, you know, being diligent with every opportunity that we get, shining in each and everything that we do, you know, being excellent and proving that in each and everything that we do. Thank you so much for sharing. And I like that. And when you ended confidence, you said something about nobody is born knowing everything, you know. There's this whole stigma around that there are certain people who can be leaders, you know, and other people cannot be leaders, meaning that there are people who actually believe that certain people are born to be leaders. And then others believe that they had to navigate and cultivate for them to be who they want to be. And I wanted to pose a question to you guys. What is your understanding when it comes to being a leader? Do you think that leaders are actually born or they are made, you know? Because I think most people feel like there are certain things that they cannot do, you know, when it comes to leading also themselves. They just feel like other people are able to do them, but it feels like they cannot be able to do it. So I just wanted you guys to just dive deep into that, to say, and to actually relate it to you guys, to say, do you think you were born this way, or there were certain things that you had to learn or unlearn throughout your journey to cultivate you being the leader that you are today? So I don't know who would like to explore that question.
Yes, I can start. And I think the topic of leaders being born or made is a long-standing debate. And for me, I believe it is both. I believe it is both. And I also believe that to some extent, there are some traits of leadership that cannot be taught, you know, so it is both. And why do I say that? If you can really think about some of the things such as being compassionate, being empathetical, and all that, some of these things, the desire to serve. I don't know if someone can stand in front of you and teach you that, you know, you need to have this desire to serve, the desire to be a change maker, the desire to actually come up with solutions. Wherever you see problems, the thing that you want to do is come up with solutions instead of complaining. So that is one element of it. So I think also how one gets to that level is, I believe, it's through experience. You grow up in a family where, I mean, I will speak about myself. I see my parents serving in my household, I think on a daily basis, as a child in my teenage life. It has always been so full. Kids from around the area will actually gather at home. Mama will cook for everyone. So that is an environment that I grew up in. And I did not know any other way. When I grew, I also got to university. I think that I carried whatever the experience that I've learned from my parents. And I carried that with me. I remember I started mentoring first-year students and other students, undergraduate students. Well, I was also an undergraduate student. When I was in the first year, I was already conducting career guidance because I identified a problem. And right there, I knew that I need to act and solve some of the challenges that I was exposed to. And simply because I knew my background, I knew where I came from. And I actually knew that because where I was, I knew that there are so many other students that came from a similar environment. For the fact that I've actually walked a step ahead or a journey ahead, I have the abilities and capabilities to go back and give a helping hand to those that are coming after me. So that is one side of it. The other side of it then is, I mean, there are skills that once can be taught. I mean, one can be taught. There's knowledge that you need to acquire. I mean, if we're talking about self-leadership, you are also a lifelong learner. You do not stop learning, because I think in every level that you go into, self-leadership, whether you are a CEO, leader in whatever organization, there's knowledge that there are skills that one needs to acquire to refine your leadership skills. So for me, it is both. You are born a leader and you are made a leader by obviously identifying opportunities, going back to self-leadership, identifying those opportunities for you to develop yourself so that you are refined as a leader. When you show up in different spaces, you're actually that leader that is worthy of being a leader. And another thing that is important, most of the times when people think leadership, they think leadership position, leadership a title. It is not even that. Hence, I'm saying that some of these things, some of these traits, you learn them as a child from your household. You are raised a certain manner, and because of how you are raised, you show up in spaces and you want to be a leader. And I remember I also had challenges with I think for the longest time, the younger self had a challenge understanding this, understanding the name leadership, you know. I remember there was about 4 or 5 years ago, I received an award. It had to do with leadership. Then the first thing that came to my mind was, what do I mean leadership? You are nominated for this, whatever leadership. I'm not a leader. I'm not in any position. I'm not occupying any leadership position. But it's because of the work that you are doing that shows the characteristics of the leader. Let me stop there, and confidence, over to you.
No, thank you so much. I think the tricky thing in this space, by the way, Dr. Tebogo and I have very similar personalities. We identified that a while ago when we went out for coffee. We're like, what? You grew up like that? Also grew up like that, you know? So I see a lot of words that she's spoken already that some of them I would not like to repeat, but I thought I should disclose that part, that we grew up in very similar manners. Our family backgrounds are very similar in that way. So hence you might see a bit of a reflection in both our stories. However, the question that you're asking on whether leaders are born or made, the truth of the matter is everyone is born. Nobody was made in a laboratory. So there's a bit of humor there to say everyone that you see today is born. So the answer is leaders are also born. No one was made somewhere else in a lab, except the robots that have been made somewhere. But talking of people, everybody that is born, from the day they are born, they start displaying a level of personality. You see it with newborn. I'm not a mother yet, but I've seen kids when they were born. Dr. Tebogo would also confers with their kids as young as they are. She starts seeing these traits to say, oh, this one seems to be the one that gets to pick up the pieces. The other one just eat and leave things there. The other one, usually the firstborn, you find them trying to feed the little one, trying to look out for the other ones. So that's when you start identifying the different personalities and characters. So what I'm trying to say as my first point is that everyone is born with individual talents, personalities, and characters. And the question we need to be asking ourselves is that at that moment when they are born, what are the characters, personalities, and talents that they are born with, which would define a leader, or rather which would contribute to them being good leaders? Those are the things that we can ask ourselves. But for us to be able to answer that question, I think we can just understand to ourselves, what is a leader? How do we even define a leader? A leader is that person that other would say a person who's in charge, someone who's running the show, somebody who convinces people that you can actually follow me. And as kids, I think I'm loving to reflect back as kids because of the word born. We saw it when we were in kindergarten. There was those young people who would already say, when they formed the groups, she'll be like, no, you stand there, you stand there. And that's when you get to realize you didn't go to school. You don't have a degree in leadership from Harvard, but yet you are telling us that you must kill there. No, 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 no. You will fall in that group, you know. And those are the small things to say, when are you right there? You seem to show already good qualities of a leadership skills. And those are some of the traits that I can say that there are research studies that show that they are genetically, there are leadership qualities that are genetically transferred to the kids. As Tebogo was saying, our parents personally were or rather are still leaders in their communities, and that we see it in in their traits being reflected in our lives to where we are today. So in simple words, leaders do get born, or rather you do get an opportunity to see leaders from their childhood. However, it doesn't stop there. There are those leaders that are already born with those qualities, and there are only leaders that get to groom whatever personalities and qualities that they have at a later stage in life. That we know it because they are introverts that were very quiet. They'll never raise a hand, they'll never lead anything. But as they groom, or rather as life throws them into certain opportunities, we see them stepping up into whatever role they're meant to play. So all I'm saying is that I believe that everyone is born with certain qualities, with certain characters. It just needs them to be exposed in whatever space they're in. They all have their strengths in whatever. Somebody like 𝗪𝗠𝗦 could say, I'm a great leader because I'm in the money space, and that's where my talents are, and that's where my strongest attributes are. But let's come to the singing group. She's like, nope, I can't sing to save myself. So she's not going to be a leader because she was not even born with the best of the voice in such a space. So leaders are born, in my understanding. However, they also get to be groomed in whatever specialties they need to be groomed in. And everyone is a leader in whatever space they are in. It just depends on the environment where we want to place them to rather unleash that leadership skills in them. Let me stop there for now.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. Brianni, do you want to add something?
I do. I'm loving this discussion. And I think what I wanted to say is, it's to add to confidence, is I think everybody is born with the potential to be a leader, and leadership is not a position. Leadership is a set of behaviors. It's a set of values. It's how we show up. And I think from the nurture part, as you were talking, it kind of came to mind, sometimes I think we nurture people into not being leaders. In fact, we unmake the leadership behaviors by the ways in which we're socialized, the ways in which we get feedback, the ways in which we internalize things that are said to us. And so many potential leaders actually dim themselves down because they have these internal beliefs, these core beliefs that they can't be a leader because they're not in a certain position, or they can't be a leader because they're a girl, or they can't influence and impact because to do so would make them noticed, and being noticed isn't safe. And so I want us to maybe explore a little bit about some of the internal stories. And this might be difficult for Tebogo and Confidence, because it sounds like you were raised in an environment where you were really kind of encouraged to serve and to be more than just yourself. But I think so many people get feedback that they internalize and they make themselves smaller. And I'm wondering if there are internal stories that either of you have had that at some point held you back, made you small, that you had to become aware of, and you had to rewrite that narrative for yourself so that you could step into your full potential.
I can go first. Actually, I think my journey to becoming an engineer as it is in itself, it was very tough. And somewhere along the way, I could have just stopped and quit and do something else, you know. And I think that starts off in just getting the actual degree itself. As soon as you get that mark that says you failed right now, you feel like this is just a sign that you need to quit and stop. This is not your destiny. Rather do something else, you know. And I had those temptations along the journey where, I mean, what people don't even know is that I actually started from another university and finished in another. When I get to another university, you get excluded. You know, when you get excluded, it means you no longer are eligible to continue with your studies. That letter in itself, it's enough to just say stop and go home, you know. But I remembered, no, I wouldn't just come this far to go back, you know. So I appealed and I went back. And even after going back, the system came back saying that, no, you're excluded again, you know. So I'm like, but then why would I get a very good bursary to come here and just to stop, you know? And that's when I'm like, God didn't bring me this far to leave me, so rather to just stop. So I continued. But fast forward to when I began the journey as an engineer. I had a choice to become any form of engineer and to specialize. I mean, after graduating as a civil engineer, I can specialize as a geotech, as a structure, transport, you know, you understand. So I decided there's this field that is less travel, which is called geotechnical engineering. Let me go to it because it seems to be the most challenging. So when I get there, it didn't really become something else. It literally became what I knew to be very challenges. When I got there, there was very many principles that I didn't understand. And I was looking at my managers and other colleagues, how everybody seemed to know and understood what I do. So the first assignment we were given with our boss by our manager, I actually did not complete that project, even as of today. He gave us a task, I had sleepless nights and I didn't finish it. After that task, for me, that was then I realized that I don't think this field is for me. I'd rather quit and just go to any other division. Let me join others in structures and transport. But something came to my mind to say, but no one is born a leader in a field, or rather nobody is born an expert in the field. I believe everybody gave themselves an opportunity to learn. That's when I said, no, it is upon me to either quit or to start equipping myself in the field. And that's when I started doing a lot of research in the field. I started learning, and that's when I enrolled with my master's with UCT in geotechnical engineering. And I started enrolling, I started engaging with the supervisors, experts in the field, and I gained so much confidence in the field. And that's when I realized I can actually do this, you know, started challenging my supervisors. I remember he even said, you're coming back for that PhD, you know, because you are so passionate about this field. And then I remembered, but I almost quit. I could have just stopped and think to myself, I do not understand what's happening. So for me, that was just one of those stories where I could have given up so many times. And to a point wherein along the journey, as I was working in my first years, before I became a professional engineer, some of the older generation of geotech engineers, they actually came to us and say, Confidence, we heard you an expert in slopes. Please help us understand this concept. That's when I'm like, oh, wow, it means it's not so bad. So that's just my simple journey of where I was discouraged to quit and had to gain the courage to move forward.
Sure. Where do I even begin? I really believe that each and every one of us have their stories to tell. And I love what was part 2 in the introduction, part 2, where you said that sometimes we see the glory. And when we see the glory, the person that is looking at the glory, they want the glory, but they do not even inquire about the process itself, you know. My journey has been, my journey has been so difficult. It's been a difficult one. And really what I think for me, what has kept me grounded, the important thing for me is that my spirituality. But there are things that when we travel on our journey of becoming, that we cannot address things on the physical realm, if I should say that. There are things that are happening in our workspaces, wherever we have been planted, that if you really, if you come across all these challenges and you respond only from a physical perspective, sometimes most of the times you are not going to win in those battles. So I remember, I'm talking about internal strength, the internal resilience. And most of the times, those are things that the person that is even sitting next to you or traveling with you on the journey cannot even see that. But you need to, the same way someone will go to the gym and, go to the gym to build their physical body and there's the spirituality. And for me, really, that has been there. There are instances in my life where I think I fought for everything, literally fought for everything. I fought to become a lecturer, to get my foot in academia, I had to fight. To get promotion, I had to fight. But there was a time where everything had to stop, where I told myself that there's a way I need to fight. I cannot continue fighting the way I need to fight. And that comes with maturity also. It also goes back to that self-leadership, where you actually discover that there are things that sometimes are happening in your environment and people are planning things against you. And somehow they think that they actually predict how you're going to react. Hence, I'm talking about spirituality, that sometimes you need to, in our journey of becoming, it is really that you respond beyond what you see in the physical realm, whereby someone will push you, attack you, but they don't even, when they're expecting a reaction, you don't even react, and you're at peace with that. So my journey, it has been there that I think the internal strength, the resilience really on my journey of becoming. I actually remember one time, my first experience in the industry. I worked in a mining industry, by the way, in a gold mining industry. During that year, there were about a group of 10 learners that were there for internship. I remember our supervisor, who was a plant metallurgist then, she had to go on leave. And one day, it was winter, it was so cold. They were sitting in a control room. I entered the control room. Everyone is sitting there on the heater. I'm the last person that is coming in. I'm feeling so cold. Then there was a problem in the plant. The moment I entered the room, there's an alarm on the system. Our line manager said, supervisor said, Tebogo, please go and check. Like gold mining industry, the leaching tanks where you have to climb the stairs, is like freezing cold outside. I remember the group of other students, they just looked at me. It was a joke. They laughed at that. And the physical being said that, no, I wanted to respond to that, to say, no, how can you want me to go outside? I just got here, I'm freezing. But there's that inner person, or that's in the deeper thing that said, go and do it, go and do it. So I think for the longest time, I was actually, they even gave me a name. Like I was the one that they said that when the supervisor said jump, I said how high. But there came a time when she had to go on leave, when the managers asked that you're going on leave, who's going to act on your capacity? Guess what? The person that she chose was Tebogo. She said, no, Tebogo has been everywhere in the plant. She has solved every problem in this plant. So she's the one that is actually capable to step in the role as the plant metallurgist. And I think that was a lesson for other people. And that is, I'm really bringing that to say that that is one thing, to say that sometimes the physical conflicts and everything may force you, they push you into the corner to respond in a physical realm. But I think once you understand who you are, where you want to go, when the vision is clearer, I think that is the most important thing. When the vision is clearer, you understand that every opportunity, no matter how small or big it is an opportunity for you to serve. And you really don't know. One thing that I always say is that it will be it's a tragic thing that opportunities present themselves and you are not prepared. Just because I refuse to just go to the leaching tanks, climb those stairs and actually go and take the samples because I was feeling cold. The other thing that also, I said that I fought for everything, literally everything. To get into the academic space, I had to fight, but I had to change my strategy of fighting. I remember that at some point I sat down, I reflected to say that there are so many things that are happening here that are working against me. How do I fight the system? And I decided that I cannot fight with sending emails and holding meetings and because that actually can ruin your reputation altogether. I made a decision about, was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to say that I will use my excellence as a weapon. So that is important, that you can use you do your work diligent, you show up with excellence and everything. You can use that as a weapon, whereby your excellent work silences everything. The system that is designed to work against you, it cannot work against your excellent work. And that takes the deeper spirituality, where you understand that, yes, things are happening, things will continue to happen, but what is the deeper thing? And it goes back to the vision is clear. When the vision is clear, when you have really discovered that, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and you begin to know that there's nothing that is going to distract me. And when all these things are coming and people are expecting a reaction to what they are really pressing on you, you respond differently. So I can really say that for me also on my journey, where I am now with the past 5 years, 6 years, my weapon has also been excellence, to say that I will show up with excellence to the point where when they want to silence my voice within, but my excellent work will make the noise for me. My excellent work will actually knock and open doors where I cannot even enter. And really, it is that. The other thing is that, you know, like the power of LinkedIn, branding yourself. You are a brand. It's very important to actually know that I'm not just Tebogo. When I show up on LinkedIn, I've received so many opportunities on LinkedIn. The way you show up on LinkedIn, the way you present yourself on LinkedIn, and it's very important to understand that as an individual, you are here, you are a brand. And it's important how you actually show up with that brand. And what is it that people will remember when they think of Tebogo? What is it that you are doing out there? Is it impactful? Is it changing life, you know? So yeah, let me stop there. I can preach.
Not really. Well, thank you so much. And I think you've just motivated some of us to say that even though we have such internal battles, you know, there are so many things that come to our mind that forces us to want to take the decision to give up, you know. It's just for us to keep on pressing on and still do not lower our standard in our jobs, in everything that we do, just to keep on pushing and being excellent, you know. Your breakthrough will come through. I believe that there's no way that you put in so much energy into something and then it will never come back to result in good results. So you're absolutely a testament to that. And I'm sure looking at how even the university sides, there's a lot of professors, doctors, and I understand when you say that there's so much that goes on, you know, and there are certain people are already looking at, we also want that position, you know, and people sometimes go play dirty and do dirty things, but for you to look back and to say, I'm going to focus on doing my work and excelling at what I do, and that's what's going to speak on my behalf. That's just so amazing. You have just motivated us, and with your confidence, thank you so much, ladies. I like how you are being vulnerable and opening up to us. And I see there's a question here from 𝗕𝗍𝗂, and I just wanted to pose it to you guys before we go any further. I think 𝗕𝗍𝗂 is asking, what are some of the qualities you look for in a young person, especially those aspiring to be leaders weigh their work? I think 𝗕𝗍𝗂 is asking about what qualities makes one a leader, you know, and then it goes further and says, how do you stand out, especially as a young person?
And I want to answer that by going back to saying that what confidence emphasized on, that we are all leaders. We are all leaders that are potential to be leaders, and it also depends on obviously your experiences and all that. In your workplace, you need to serve. I find most of the times people tend to complain. I remember working as a metallurgist. You know, in a gold mining industry, with your with your first degree, we were not treated so well. We were sweeping the mud on the floor, and then I remember one day the plant manager was watching us working. He came to me and said, with the attitude that you have, you'll go very far in this industry. Unfortunately, I had to leave the mining industry and go to academia. So there is an attitude to your work. There's an attitude to your work, and most of the times, those that you report to cannot miss that. I think attitude to your work is very important. and how you treat your work. You can really be a bunch of people that are working together, but how you do things is different. I remember I was the one that, I used to be the one that used to bother my supervisor, looking for problems in the plant. Are you adding value to the company? You know, what is it that we are doing to say that I'm actually adding value to the company? If the company needs to close shop tomorrow, they can actually say, no, not Tebogo because of 1, 2, 3. I think we need to always look for opportunities where we present ourselves extraordinary. Because that's the thing that we cannot be. I think that the things that we need to strive for that you know what, I cannot be an ordinary person. Because what is it? There are things that needs to distinguish yourself to the rest of the group. That is very important. That what is it that in my workspace, work environment, what is it that will actually distinguish me as Tebogo from the rest of the people that are working here? So for me, it boils down to serving and doing your work with diligence and excellence.
It's confidence. Do you have something to share to the same question?
Absolutely. I think there's a famous question which also has the simplest answer. Which is what is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary? It's that extra, going an extra mile. Going an extra mile when you're given a simple task. Going an extra mile when you're asked to serve even on the smallest job. Going an extra mile when you know that my boss is not around today and the problem needs to get solved. There's no way that manager, or rather that whoever you report into, will not be able to recognize such. It's easy for managers to know when with a bunch of 10 graduates, which are those graduates do have the qualities to lead the organization in the future. Which are those graduates? I mean, in internship, when they say we want to retain the 5 and let go of the 5, what is it that set them apart? If you do that research and study, you'll realize that the other 5 probably had the desire to serve, to solve problem, and to contribute positively to the growth of whatever environment or whatever organization where you have. Whereas the other 5 that you look at them, you realize that all they desired was just to do the task as they were given. They didn't give themselves an opportunity to ask, how can I contribute better? What can I do differently to make this work environment better? I mean, I started a new job wherein there wasn't a lot of equipment. It's a government space. There was no internet, there was no laptops. You know, it took a while to get all of those resources in place, you know, and you are being appointed on a very big position as a leader where you need to lead and organize, lead a discipline. And I had to ask myself, when they ask me for a report or for something, should I sit down and fold my hands and say, you haven't given me a computer, there's no internet, so I'll wait a month or whatever until you give me? No, I had to make a plan. I had to say, I've got my personal laptop, I've got my personal internet. Let me do what I can to solve the problems at hand in order to make sure we move forward. So that is just a simple example of an attitude that one can bring in a workspace to ensure that they bring that extra beyond the ordinary that would set you up to be a great leader in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. And I think it's very important to show up, you know. And I think something that also Dr. mentioned, also using platforms that we are given, you know, like social medias and stuff like that. Just also to look for people in spaces that we want or we aspire to be in, you know, just to see how they do things, and sometimes also reach out to them and also ask them what makes them who they are. You know, sometimes having a more relatable example close to you to actually guide you in you being the person that you want to be in the near future. And I just wanted to ask you guys, here I am. I've done so much work, self-led myself to being whoever I want to be. And then I'm here sitting and I'm like, no, I'm good. This is good enough for me, you know. How can you motivate me to actually go a step or a mile ahead to say that now, since I've led myself into being who I want to be, how do I then lead other people? Because I think the challenge also in the mining space is that we have leaders who have self-led themselves into being who they are, now, and now they don't want to even share the knowledge or guide other people or actually help other people who are still in junior positions to actually become. And you can see some people, you see there are young people who have energy, who have dreams, who they make it known that I want to be this, you know, who approach certain people to say, how can you assist me? But there are some people who still want to withdraw or don't want to assist others to help them to become who they want to be. I don't know, Brianne, I see your hand is up. I don't know if you want to add before they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I mean, I want to tie this back to self-leadership, because I think, I mean, what we're asking here is, how can somebody outside of me motivate me to take on more leadership roles? How can somebody outside of me motivate me to identify problems that I can solve? How can you motivate me to serve more? But I think so much of it is about actually internalizing the question and seeking more self-awareness. And so I kind of want to turn the question a little bit and ask Tebogo in confidence about their journeys into developing their self-awareness, because you can inspire and motivate as much as you want, but if we in the audience don't know ourselves, if we don't know our values, if we don't know what's important to us, if we don't know what beliefs get in our way, you're going to be talking to a brick wall. And so for me, I think it's important for everybody to hear what your journeys into your own self-awareness have been like. And from my personal experience, it's been a very tough journey. I've learned some really hard things about myself, things that I didn't want to know. And I'm curious whether there were things that you've kind of learned about yourselves that have been tough as well. That's my question.
Yeah, I think we learn every day. We learn about ourselves. The journey of self leadership is also self-discovery, self-reflection, and all that. On my side, I wouldn't really say that there are things that are like difficult things that I had to learn about myself, but rather I would say it's more of positive things that have somehow were there within me that I had to cultivate, to show up, really, to show up in different spaces as that, I don't know, ethical leader, a leader with empathy, a leader with integrity, and so forth. And I think where I am now also is, and I'm a senior lecturer and all that. I believe that, so all these traits that I'll talk about, an example will be empathy, you know, and one can really think about, okay, how do I exercise that? How do I show forth that in the environment where I'm working at? So I really ensure that when I interact with my students, when I lead the people that I'm leading, the students that I'm leading, the colleagues in the department that I'm leading, that is actually something that is on top there. To say that no, I need to be I need to be empathetic and serving others with also serving from the heart, you know, and also in things like that. It is leadership, and now I'm really talking about now being a leader, leading an organization, leading people, and all that. There are things that you will discover, so many things that will happen on your journey. And it goes back to really that, where are you grounded as an individual? Because and I said that I'm a very spiritual person. So there's some things that I do not deal with things in the physical realm, whereby when things are happening within the spaces that I'm at, you'll find that people, their reaction, for example, and I'll give an example to say that, I know in the space that I'm at, for the longest time, it was not a conducive space for people to really operate and deliver and you know, but there's something that when you begin to now come up with all these things that are within, cultivating those things, they actually show up in those spaces. where people, all of a sudden, people can sit and say, wow, this environment has changed. This environment, now we are beginning to feel like we are working as a team. And so I wouldn't say really is difficult things that were there, but really things that were there, or through experience, I grew up with those things, and then had opportunities to really cultivate them, and so that they show up in my leadership style and so forth.
Sorry, guys, if I can just maybe jump on. I think there's two questions in the chat which actually probably expand on what Tebogo has probably touched on. Patu, if you want to maybe check that out, from Hlatsego and Lindy.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe Hlatsego and Lindy, you guys can come on and maybe share your questions.
Yeah, Lindy, can you please share your question? Or it's fine, I can just, oh.
Sorry, I just needed to move away from noise.
Oh, okay.
My question is, how do you go about it when you're in an environment where people around you, they're just threatened by your knowledge and your academic credentials? You can be working in the same division and find that the other department is failing or having difficulty to achieve something, and it's some of where your skills lies or where your most of your knowledge lies, and you want to help. And the ones who are leading the projects is just telling you to back off. So how do you even go beyond to serve beyond your scope when you are, you know, experiencing such restrictions?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one, especially if, let's say, if you have a line manager that does not recognize, try to suppress everything that we are doing. I strongly believe that it is just a matter of time. If you keep at it and you are not discouraged, you do not give up. If the vision is clear, even look, you need self-leadership also. I think it speaks of leading yourself to attain your greatest or highest potential without being affected by your surroundings. You know, so irrespective, so we need to be, oh my God, I used to be in dark spaces, but it goes back to that who you are, who do you think you are, who have you become to believe you are. And we get to a level where the environment does not really affect. It may affect you in terms of, I'm doing this project, it might not get to where it's supposed to be, it might not get recognized whatsoever. But I also spoke about the power of LinkedIn or social media. Branding yourself, because that's what companies are doing. In fact, most of toxic companies or environments, they will actually try to just put you in a box within that organization, because they know that, yes, we are not treating you well. And if the people outside can see you, you are gone. They're literally you will be gone from that organization. So it's very important to say that, okay, yes, do people out there know what I'm doing while I'm in this toxic space? Because I think that's the only time we'll actually make people shut their mouth within and begin to recognize you. I remember at some point on my own journey of becoming, beginning to receive invites, come and give this masterclass there and there, different universities. Look, that got management shaken. Because now they see that and I think the other thing is that it's not that when people are treating you bad, they don't see the potential. Sometimes they're not fighting where you are, they are fighting the greatness that they see, that is revealed unto them. So it's important to know that in whatever environment, we need to develop ourselves as human beings, as women, to the point where the environment, you know, you are blooming irrespective of the environment. Wherever you are planted, whether it's toxic, whatever, you are just the one that is shining in that environment. And we have that ability and capability to do exactly that. So, you know, I gave an example to say that 2 years, 3 years back, I shut myself. I shut everything to say that I'm not going to see this toxic environment, I'm not going to see the politics that are playing out here. I'm going to develop myself. When you develop yourself, look, the work begins to speak on your behalf. And we need to really, I think as women, we need to get to that position whereby really the environment does no longer affect us. The work is able to speak. And if really the environment is toxic, too toxic, that is putting in a box, you use the platforms that are available to showcase the work that we are doing. And it's a matter of time before you actually, someone recognizes you, or even the people within the company begin to change their mindset towards you.
Yeah, our work needs to speak for us, and we need to speak for ourselves. And the one thing that I'm really taking from you is you don't always have to serve within your organization. You can serve in your industry. You can serve beyond the boundaries, and that is taking on a leadership role as well. And your awareness of what you have to offer a bigger community is self-awareness, and that's often the difference between being stuck in a position where people are threatened by you and having people notice you and go, we want to see more of you.
I agree with you. I think Brian there. I think I've come a very good example of such a challenge, because I think when I was trying to still develop myself as a geotechnical engineer, there were other areas where now they wanted me to serve at management level, board level, And I think just to come back to Lindy's question, I wanted to just add one more thing to say. It's quite important to understand your leaders. I understand when we go to workspaces, we are not there to nurse other people's egos, but just understanding who your leader is and what their personality is sometimes can serve you very well, because you know how to approach them when you want to let's say contribute or go an extra mile. There are those type of managers that appreciate you when you bring ideas, and they even go to the board or to the managers to say, Lindy or Tebogo came with this brilliant idea. And there are those managers that when you give them ideas, they want to feel great about themselves. So when they even go to present those ideas, they'll say, my department that I lead, those are righteous, the ones that are there to just shine, So when you understand the different type of managers that you are reporting to and the different departments and the culture in the whole organization, you learn to understand that when I approach this manager, this is how I need to bring the idea. I sometimes you just need to put it as a question to say, I was thinking with this challenge that you were mentioning at the meeting, have you thought about doing this? Maybe if you go and try and do this, and then maybe ask the team members, to go and implement it and to go and research this, you as my manager, go ahead and do it, you let them do that. And over time, to be honest with you, over time, you can never hide a light and think that light will die out. Wherever you are, if you are a light, you are a light. Whether it went through the manager or whether it went through the back door, whether it went through a small email or whispering in their ears, at the end of the day, the light within you will not stop shining just because your manager is threatened by your skills and your expertise. And the message that is out here is that do not hide your light. Let it shine. Let it serve wherever it needs to serve, irregardless of the challenges you are facing, irregardless of how many people are going to demotivate you. Your colleagues will be jealous of you. Your colleagues will deter you. You'll receive negative comments after writing very, very good presentation. And they'll tell you your idea is nonsense. But we've learned that there is no great invention that we see in the world that came out in one day and that came out successfully in one go. A lot of people had to try 100 times. A lot of inventors and a lot of startups managers, they needed to knock in so many doors with great ideas and they were rejected. But if they gave up in the first rejection or in the first denial, we wouldn't have great inventions that we have today. So I'll just encourage you that wherever you are, if you knock on one door and that idea is not taken, go to the next door. Jim Rohn have a very good quote to say, if you don't like where you are, move. You're not a tree. So I mean that if you feel like you've been suppressed where you are, you can move to another organization, and they'll remember later on that we had this person in our organization. Why didn't we take advantage of that gift and that talent and nurture it? And they'll be able to see it years later that we should have taken advantage, but unfortunately it's their loss. All I'm saying is that don't be discouraged. Wherever you are, your leaderships can grow, and if they're not serving in that department, you are allowed to move. You are allowed to flourish in any other environment that you can. So that's just my my peace of mind.
But can I just say something? Just adding on what Confidence has said. The other important thing is what is the strategy for the organization? Forget people's feelings and at the end of the day, come end of the year, people are sitting for performance review. So work on the strategy. Look, if you work on the strategy, your line manager, whether they like you, they don't have to like you or whatsoever. If they are ticking the boxes and you are making them tick the boxes, that is that. Because sometimes we focus so much on the toxic environment, and you find that it's not the environment, it's actually the people that are toxic. You lose focus on the strategy. Whatever that you're doing on a daily basis, are you even contributing to the strategic objectives of the organization? So I think if we shift the focus to say that, you know what, I wake up today on my daily basis, this is a strategic objective, this is a strategic objective of the organization. I don't care whether my manager likes me or not. I'm working towards this strategy. Look, that one will get to the highest or the president of whatever organization, because we are contributing towards the strategy of the organization. So forget people's feeling. We are not at work to be liked whatsoever. It is really when you're contributing towards the strategy, your line manager is getting the KPI, then they're ticking the boxes, they're getting the bonus at the end of the year, and we are part of that. That's all that matters. That's why we are there, I think.
Thank you so much, ladies. And I think with you guys just answering this question, it gives one an idea that most time we give so much responsibilities to the person above us, like to say that the people are the ones who are toxic, you know, and sometimes the people above us undervalue us and all that, and then they create this environment that sometimes we always think our promotion will come from them. We always think that our rewards will come from them, you know, and just to stretch ourselves to show up in each and every area, like looking at the strategies of our companies. I think most of us don't even know. At the end of the day, we are there with a goal just to say that I want to see myself here and there, but we actually don't give ourselves time to learn the strategies of the company. What does the company want to achieve in the next 5 years? You know, certain things like that, wherein you can contribute. And then even though a person doesn't give you credit, trust me, there's someone out there who noticed, and there's someone out there who will notice you without you even putting in an effort, by you just showing up and giving it all your best, you know. And I just wanted to come up to that to say, you know, because our topic today is about self-leadership and having a CEO mindset, you know. When it comes to having a CEO mindset, what does it mean to you guys, you know, in your careers and different fields? There's an aspect of self-leadership to it. But what are some of the core values that when you wake up in the morning, you look at it and you say that here now you are activating and you are living in your CEO mindset in certain decisions that you're taking in your life? So I'd like you guys to just maybe give us a few points when it comes to that.
Yeah. So it begins with that. And I want to take it back to a mindset within an organization. I'll come to the self-discovery one. CEO mindset, you don't just wake up and really just cruise in life throughout the day. In visionary thinking, where as an individual, and it begins with you, where is Tebogo seeing yourself in the next 5-10 years? You know, and what is it that I need to be doing today for me to get there? And you'll find that most of the times when you discover that you can put that plan together, it's actually very easy to understand, step into the organization's visions and whatnot. Because when you get there, the strategic objectives, it is there. You want to understand the strategy. It's not, I'm appointed as this and that. What are the strategic objectives of this organization? Like we are saying, but where does this company wants to be in the next whatever? How do I fit in as an individual in that bigger picture? That is important. And the decisions are to make. Very important. I think it is also the mindset of the CEO mindset, the decision making. It has to be not just decision. There's a reason why decisions are made. If you are an individual, what decision am I making today? Whatever that I'm doing, the decision that I'm making today, are they coming or developing myself as bringing a stepping stone for me to step into my next level, where I want to be or where I see myself? Resilience. Ooh. Resilience. I think that is an important one, where I think in our journey, and there's a question on the chat on the challenges that we've come across as women and women in leadership. Resilience. You know, I remember the story, just briefly to say that I remember when I was doing my PhD, how at the peak of my PhD, I had to bury my son. I had an option to give up right there, to say that 4 months, I traveled for the first time, I'm overseas for the first time, I come back, my 4-month-old son was not alive. I had to come back, bury him. And I had to actually right there make a decision that, am I going to stop here and really mourn, or am I going to continue with this bigger vision that was in my head? And so I could have decided to actually abandon the PhD. That was too much of a burden for me to carry. But I decided to say that I am going to dedicate this whole thing to him. And I also managed, with that, I still managed to get my PhD at 30, with that experience that I went through. So it is that the resilience is deeper than, and it goes back to what I've said at the beginning, to say that it's deeper than, there's something deeper that needs to drive you. You cannot just see things at a physical value and really go with that. Results orientation. It is also that, what are the goals? What if I say that I want to be here by end of the month? Self leadership. If I said that by end of the year I want to have achieved 1, 2, 3. What am I doing? And do I hold myself accountable? Who's holding myself accountable for whatever that I'm promising myself? Yeah, let me stop there. And I think the last one will really to say that the strategic focus, we need to really be strategic focus, and the growth orientation, that long learning, you know that we are a lifelong learner. I do not stop learning because now I've achieved whatsoever. I think that I can stop learning. We have to be students for life. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my word. We've been given 5 points of just cultivating. I'm sure, guys, if you are learning, guys, just give thumbs up, love throughout the session, you know, just to encourage us. Thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable, Dr. Confidence. You can take it away.
No, thank you so much. And I think I'll just start off with the simplest thing that I've realized is that I think we all wake up with the idea to do good, to achieve something. That's one thing I've learned, that I don't think there's anybody who wakes up with the intention to just be lazy, to not achieve anything. And that in itself, it's a good starting point to say, I wake up with the desire to achieve my goals. So where do we start off? So I believe one thing that worked, or rather that works for me, is to set very clear goals for myself. And when you speak of clear goals, we're talking about the SMART goals, the S being smart, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Time-bound plays a huge role, because we all will say, I want to register as a professional engineer. How and by when? You know, that is very important. And I think when I look at my journey, I had a very clear goal to say, within 5 years, I need to have my PR inch and I need to have my M inch. Those were very two clear things in my career, and those were within 5 years. And honestly, within the in the 4th year, I got my M inch. In the 5th year, I got my PR inch, and that was it. And what really helped me even in that was that I had my mentors who I was accountable to. I remember I needed to report every single thing, such as I submitted an application form, give feedback, you know. I then filled up a form. I paid for registration, you know. I needed to update in those small little set up goals. And one of the things I did was that I would tick off and celebrate every achievement. The day I submitted an application form to the university, I'll play, yay. You know, I submitted the application form, and you'd be amazed by the power of encouragement you get when you celebrate those small little achievable goals that you set for yourself, because we have this big picture that we want to achieve this big thing. But in all honesty, you can never eat an elephant in one day. You literally have to take one bite at a time. And for every bite that you take, make sure you pause and you celebrate it. And that's how you gain energy to get up again and start again. So set clear goals and smart goals. Let's rather put it that way. The second thing is delivery in finishing what you start. That is one of the biggest tasks. You know, when I went for my master's graduation, I found out that there was just the two of us in the graduation room. And I asked my supervisor during the graduation that, where are my classmates? We're a bunch of us in the master's. What happened? He's like, they couldn't finish the thesis. I'm like, but everybody did the coursework. What happened, you know? And that's when we realized that we needed the discipline to finish it. And for me, I also didn't even have the discipline to finish it. It required me to sit down in December holidays over Christmas and New Year just to finish it, because I realized that I cannot start something that I cannot finish. We all have the desire to achieve something great, but what sets us apart is to say, are we able to finish? Are we? I mean, we can start, right? But the question is, are you able to go through the course and finish? And all I'm saying is that you're going to face challenges. Tebogo's challenge is one that I cannot even imagine how challenging that was. But she had the desire to say, whatever I started, I need to finish it. And the last point I want you to remember is that nobody's coming to save you. I had to think that about it. I mean, I'm a founder of Prestio app. I don't know if you know about it. It's actually more like the first application, social media application for women only, the first of its kind in the world, and you know, and so on and so on. So, but with Prestio, what I realized that the idea, or rather the seed that God has planted in my heart, if I sit down and just linger around and doubt myself and not even begin it, no one is coming to save me. Nobody is coming to do it and do it for me. I needed to be very disciplined in ensuring that I get it done. And I realized that if I sit down and fold my hand, there is a reason why that app was planted in my head. It's because it needed to help a young girl in the villages. It's because it needed to save another child who's facing abuse in the middle of China or India. I realized the app needs to go out and serve its purpose in the world. And if I sit down in my laziness and just sleep and slumber, no one is going to come and do it for me. So that is another attitude that I needed to get. And in the processes, where I was facing challenges, I needed to learn that where I'm not able to do it, I must learn to delegate. That is the last point. I need to accept that you do not know how to do everything. In whatever processes you're doing, whether you're studying, whether you are seeking a new job or to do a new thing, understand your limitations of things that you cannot do and learn to delegate and seek help in those environments. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not an accounting expert. Those things I needed to bring into the app so that I can have a successful Prestio that you see today. So those are just the few tips that help us to get up and run with the CEO mindset.
Thank you so much, ladies. And, you know, as you were speaking, I was just thinking about how so many times we have goals, you know, so many times we set our goals and we put a plan, you know, and so many times we focus on the end goal, like achieving that last thing. And I think one thing I'm taking away is celebrating the small wins. I mean, even just sending an application, you know, it's a step towards the right direction. And sometimes that's what keeps us motivated and grounded to keep on following, to know that I have done this part. Now I can do the next one. Now I can do the next one, instead of just looking at the whole goal and say, but because some goals take years, you know. And sometimes we get so encouraged because I'm sure there's so many people who have started something and then just ended in between, you know, being results orientated, to be results driven, to know that you need to finish whatever you have started. I'm just so much encouraged. I don't know, Brianna, if you have something to add.
No, I absolutely love this. And it's, you know, for me, the CEO of an organization needs to drive the organization forward. But she can't, and I specifically say she can't do all the work herself. Okay, she has to know where to get guidance and advice from. She has to know who she can soundboard off. She has to be able to delegate to a whole suite of managers, and she has to trust that those managers will delegate further on. And it's exactly the same for us in our self-leadership. Okay, we have to have a vision that takes us forward. We have to be able to influence ourselves and engage ourselves to keep moving forward. We have to use that vision and those goals to keep bringing us back on course, because it's so easy to get distracted by shiny things. And we have to have our own personal board of directors that we consult when we're losing our way. We have to know where we can get really great advice from. And we really have to be able to let go of things that we shouldn't be doing, that we have to say no to, so that we can say yes to the things that keep taking us forward. And if we can keep that close to our minds, if we can act as CEOs for ourselves, we're doing an amazing job. But it doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself alone. It actually means you have to surround yourself by others who can support you and encourage you and guide you and lift you up and keep you going. Because if we try to be a CEO on our own, we don't actually have a business. We're just a solopreneur doing something very small. And if we can take this back to leadership, and self-leadership is all about making the biggest impact you can. Finding a problem that you can solve and serving in a way that helps solve that problem. And that problem can be anything. It doesn't have to be in your organization. It could be that there are people in the industry who need to know what the industry trends are. Talk about the industry trends, interpret them on LinkedIn, share your knowledge, introduce people to other people, make connections. All of this is leadership. But it comes back to you as an individual to know yourself well, so that you know what you value and what inspires and motivates you. Because the one thing about goals is we so often set them to impress others. And that's when we don't finish things. That's when it's really hard to keep moving forward towards those goals. But when we set goals that really inspire us, that connect us to our mission for being on this planet, for being alive, where we're so passionate about our goals because they're intrinsically important to us, not to anybody else, that's when we keep driving forward. And often when we've got that intrinsic motivation, it serves everybody else as well. I went off on a tangent there, but thank you for letting me speak.
No, thank you so much, Brianni. I think it has been such an insightful session tonight. And I just wanted to ask, in our journey of self-leadership, there's so much that we learn throughout, because I think most of us, we will be sharing that you never stop learning and growing. But I just wanted you guys, if you can just share one thing that you had to unlearn, that you believed about leadership and having a CEO mindset, just one thing that you had to unlearn.
Confidence, go first. I'm so thinking.
Sometimes people ask you difficult questions without you expecting. So what is that one thing that I needed to unlearn let me get the question right.
Yeah, to unlearn about self-leadership and having a CEO mindset, what one could
or unlearn about yourself.
Yes.
And maybe I can give you an example. I've had to unlearn about myself that staying safe is better than taking a risk. Okay. There's definitely been a story in my head for a long time that if I stay quiet, it's safe. And I won't get into trouble and I won't get noticed and there won't be any issues. But I've had to unlearn that story in my head and start telling myself that to serve in the biggest and best way I possibly can, I have to actually open my mouth. I have to show up. I have to be seen. I sometimes have to be loud, and I have to take a risk of getting shouted at, of not being liked, of being unpopular, so that I can achieve what I want to achieve in this world. So that's an example. There's a story in your head that says you've got to be one way, and you've had to rewrite that story so that you can actually show up and serve in your best way possible.
Yes, I think I can also give
I think, oh, you can go. Should I go? I think in my space, it's what I had to unlearn is that the idea that I can be everywhere all the time, that I can be in all over the show to solve all the problems. You know, I think growing up, I grew up with in a strict family wherein we were taught to be very responsible. So what that means that what my dad would say is that if something goes wrong, he'd ask, where were you when it was going wrong? What did you do when things were going wrong, you know? So that was so instilled in my head that everywhere I go, every time I see something going wrong, I'd feel the edge that I'm gonna be that person to solve that problem. It's really not a very bad trait, to be honest with you, but I had to learn my limitations, that you cannot serve the whole world as one person. There are cases wherein when you see something wrong, the only thing you'd get to do is just advise and step back and allow the people and those people to deal with it. It's not everywhere where you'll see something tripping and you have to jump in, because at the end of the day, you're just one human being. You cannot be in 5 places at the same time. You cannot please 5 masters at the same time, you know. So that is one thing that I'm still struggling to learn, because the desire to serve, the desire to solve problems, I feel like I can be everywhere at the same time. And the disaster that comes with that is when you start disappointing people. For example, if Patu asked me to show up today in the session, whereas somebody asked me to go and pick up their child this afternoon or do something else, you know, and I'll be like, yeah, it's fine, I'll do it, you know, it's fine. Then you realize that now time is running out. It means I'll disappoint them because I need to be in the session. So that desire to feel like you can solve all the world's problem, it's not necessarily a trait of a good leader. A good leader must know their limitations, where they can and when they can't do it. So I think that's just an example on my side, which I'm still working on, by the way, in trying to step back, and also trusting when you delegate. Trust others after you've delegated your task and step back. That thing wherein you are a leader and you feel like you've trusted your juniors to run around with something, when you see them struggling, you want to quickly jump in to solve every problem. I'm very much embarrassed. Somebody who's who reports to me yesterday was struggling with the printer. I had to leave my work to be standing with them to teach them how to scan back-to-back pages and make photocopies. When the paper jammed, I was there with them. So that's just a very embarrassing example that just came to my mind, that it actually happened yesterday. I was stuck with it for the longest time while I needed to run to be in another meeting, you know. So I'm unlearning that I can't solve all the world problem as
well. Awesome. Okay, so that is confidence is like my twin. And I'm adding on that. I think one thing, it's a difficult one also that I'm learning on a daily basis. It's humility is better than being correct, you know. And let me just break it down for and I'll give an example whereby you are running an organization, or you are leading people, to say, you know, and people expectations. Sometimes you have to apologize, knowing that I did not do anything wrong, just so that the environment is conducive for everyone to actually work and reach their full potential. And an example would be, I remember there was a time where, this guy was very, very angry with me. I went to his office and I really told him the case. So this is actually my perspective about what is happening here. But at the end of that, he was fuming. He was really fuming. But at the point I said, I apologize. I was not, I know there was nothing wrong that I did. At the point where I say I apologize, look, the environment changed. What I received from his side was, I also apologize then, you know? So yeah, I think it's something difficult that I'm learning, but it is something that I'm learning to say that really to be humble is most of the times is much better than always wanting to prove a point and being the one that is always correct.
Thank you so much, ladies. I'd also like to share something that I had to unlearn. I had to unlearn that the right time is not coming. The right time is now, you know. I always had this belief that you always feel like, no, I'll take that step when the right time comes, you know. You always looking at, now I will start leading myself, having a plan, setting a goal when the time is right, you know. The right time is not coming, it's now. And I hope that whatever that we have learned here today, we can actually go back and use it in our lives from now. It's not gonna happen after a year or when you get something or whatnot. Starts now. And I don't know if our panelists just have some closing statements that you would like to say. I know we've been having a great time. I know we don't want it to end, but we definitely have to close this session for today. I absolutely enjoyed it so much. And I just want to give our panelists just a few minutes just to give a closing statement.
Mine will be short. Always raise your hand to serve. Always be willing to always walk that extra mile, and always know that a heart to serve will always, I always say that, a heart to serve will always attract more opportunities to serve.
Love it. Yes, confidence.
On my side is to say, God created you for a purpose. You are not just another additional moving body. And that purpose, no one will step up to serve it for you. It is for you to rise up to your own occasion and fulfill your purpose. And you do that by serving, as Dr. Tebogo was saying. Leadership is serving. That's it. We see high positions, we see high titles and places, but what it takes to be a great leader is for you to wake up and say, I'm ready to serve to fulfill my purpose. So thank you so much. And let's continue to rise to the occasion. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to take up your space. Only you can take up your space and change the world to what you want to see it to be. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. If I may, Patu, thank you so much for facilitating this session. You've done an absolutely incredible job. I don't think you facilitated a session like this before, have you?
No.
First time. Okay, so can we please have a round of applause for Patu? First time facilitating a session, and she has done such a beautiful job. You, my dear, are stepping into serving and stepping into your leadership potential.
Thank you so much. Any closing statements from you?
That was my closing statement. You're a great example to all of us. Step into serving. There are so many problems around this world and in this country and in our communities and our lives where we have the ability to solve a problem and to serve. And that is the most beautiful thing that we can do, because it helps others, but it also really builds us up. There is so much reward in serving others. So that would be my encouragement, is look for problems, little problems that are meaningful to you, that you want to solve, and solve beyond your boundaries. Tebogo and Confidence, thank you so much. Patu, who's disappeared into the dark, thank you so much. Everybody who's been here with us, thank you for your time. And Raksha and 𝗪𝗠𝗧, thank you for the platform. We couldn't do this without 𝗪𝗪𝗧. It's been a wonderful evening, so thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.